Before we get started, Deepika, if you'd like to, introduce yourself, your career journey, that will be really helpful for, everyone.
Sure. My name is Dipika Kapadia. I'm a Senior Director of Product at Flipkart. I have deep, diverse experience in product management, largely focused in e-commerce, but I've also worked in travel. My longest stint has been at Amazon in Seattle for 8 years. I was the founding product manager of Fulfillment by Amazon, which is now a multi-billion-dollar product worldwide. At Flipkart, I have been Senior Director of Product at Marketplace. I just started a new role which has me work with categories to from a growth perspective, to increase the top line and bottom line and bring a sharp vertical focus to the work that we are doing to grow retention and loyalty. I also had stints at Myntra as a VP of Product for Supply Chain. There was a short stint at Ola. And a stint at EY. So I'm super excited to be here with Lakshmi, and would love to hear questions from the audience, a little bit about my journey. For those of you who've asked this question, I'm not an engineer, but I am a really good product manager, and so I'd love to be able to answer questions about your journey as well. So.
Deepika, why don't we start with that, right? Like, so you are from a non-tech background and now managing, Flipkart products. So if we can start with that, and then we can go around the audience and, get some questions as well.
Sure. So my journey was, it wasn't that I aspired to, go from from B school. So I went to the US to do my MBA, and it's not like I went on to become a product manager. I graduated at a time when it wasn't really a very well-known, it was an emerging discipline. And I actually started in data analytics and market research. And the organization I started with, Travelocity, it was the first online travel agency. It was an offshoot of American Airlines and Sabre. And they collected tons of customer data at a time when that wasn't even really a big thing, right? So at that time, terabytes of data was a very big thing. And so being in market research helped me understand how to track customer behavior, why are they abandoning their shopping journey. So understanding consumer behavior was very important, and I gave it my all. Then I had two choices offered to me when I was ready for a change. One was biz dev and one was program management. I actually took program management because I wanted to understand technology. I wasn't from the tech background. And without realizing it, what I was doing was interfacing between business and UX and engineering and QA, and kind of, not just doing the execution, but often writing requirements for what the consumer behavior should be. So without realizing it, I was doing product management. Soon enough, they made me flights product manager. Around that time, got recruited by Amazon. It was a whole new ball game, a whole different scale. Spent 8 years there. I was actually offered a role in leadership of Amazon India, which is probably the one chance I did not grab with my two hands, and sometimes end up regretting even today. But everything happens for a reason. At Myntra, I learned a lot about going deeply into one vertical, because fashion behaves very, very differently from what you call widgets, right? So you're not replenishing the same thing over and over again. You have to understand trends, leveraged ML, computer vision to realize what's selling and why, what should we be investing in. Ola was another fantastic experience for different reasons. And then EY happened, again very global. I got to work across 3 different continents in this role. I've changed 14 homes by myself. It's been quite the journey, and I really resonate with what the earlier panel said about having a point of view, being fearless, having the courage of your conviction. I remember at Amazon, I've been in meetings with Jeff Bezos, very fearless, this Indian woman who would stand up and tell him, this is why I believe something should be done, and he would actually listen. So, a lot of some of the audacious things that I proposed for FBA did get implemented, and I think that helped me, and I was really lucky. I don't want to not give credit where it's due. The belief that I had from the ecosystem and the support I had, I think really set a stage for how I saw myself. And I'm really excited to be here and offer that to the emerging product management community. because it's very important to pay it forward. And for that, I thank NASSCOM, Lakshmi, for this opportunity, and happy to answer questions that you may have.
Thank you, Deepika. We'll take questions from the audience. We also have some questions from the offline, I know, our community. So we'll take 2-3 questions from the audience and 1 from the offline. Prashant, could you help?
Hello, ma'am. My name is Niharika, and I'm currently working as a product lead. I'm associated with a product-based company called Geom Business Solutions, which is into banking technology. My question today is, I'm also exploring new opportunities. I'm trying to look for new opportunities, and in this journey, I did come across certain scenarios where you have to meet some criteria, or else you won't be eligible for the job. So let's say, as a next step, and I think I am good enough for that role. So if my experience is lesser than what they are expecting, so they're looking for, let's say, I will tell what happened with me. So they were looking for a candidate with 9 or more than 9 years of experience. But I happen to have like overall 6 years of experience. And they did take my interview. They felt that the candidate is good enough, and she's also meeting all the skill set or whatever criteria that they had. And I cleared all the rounds of interviews, and finally they come back and say that, the only reason we are rejecting you is because you don't have enough experience. So these are some barricades that I see in, I'm not sure how many of you would agree with me. So what is your take on that? Do you really need to have that experience to get there? Or if you just have enough knowledge and the skill sets, so will you be good enough to reach there? So I just want to hear your opinion on that.
See, in my opinion, so thanks for the question, Niharika. Years of experience is usually a proxy for what that experience builds in a candidate, right? And I mean, the result of the interview is what it turns out to be, but you should take that opportunity to understand, okay, what else were you looking for that, my years of experience may not have let me build. I think it's very important to see every interview as a learning process. And not be focused always on the outcome, because you're going to learn about yourself. And remember that when you go through an interview, you're always also interviewing the organization. Do you want to work there? How are they treating you as a candidate? What are their values? It's kind of like dating. We are always so fixated on, am I going to get rejected? You don't focus on, do I really want to be with this person? So. Carry that mindset with you and be in that learning frame of mind to understand, okay, what else is it that you were looking for, and look to grow and look to build in that area. Okay. Typically what I find is organizations will make exceptions, and if they don't, you should find out, sort of what the gap is and try and fill it yourself. But don't feel dejected and rejected. Take it as something that is a stepping stone for something that's meant for you.
Right. I really thank you for that. And I also did get some appreciation from them, saying that, you are phenomenally good, but you're not meeting this criteria, and some of us would disagree to select you, which is okay. They gave me a reason, which I'm really happy about. And I just have one more question. So in order to be a product manager or to get into the product management, you need to have some skill sets, and you would start your learning path. So you just go across, and maybe you find some courses and you enroll to that. So as part of these courses, it could be from IIM, ISB. So these are like, the reputed institutions, right? So what I have completed my product management course, to mention, and as part of that journey, what they teach there is more about the traditional ways of product management. They explain you about many different methods like factor analysis, hands-off method. But in practical, will I be able to relate that to my company? That is something which I'm not able to do. Ours is it's not a very big company. We are like about 150 members. That's the employee number in our company. And so I really try to, when I come back and tell my company that I have completed this course and this is what is my learning, and I need to explain them about, so this is how it was working. And they were not able to take those methods or traditional ways and to work in the same way as, which was explained to me. So do you think this is right, what we are learning in the product management course, and the same thing which we are not able to practically apply it when it comes to our own company and the work that we are doing? Do you think is it worth going, taking those courses or enrolling those courses?
I think that's a great question, Niharika, and I think it might apply to a lot of people in the audience who are taking product management courses. So often I find that, especially folks who are younger in their career, they want to have a very formulaic approach to product management, that when I am asked a metrics question, I am going to apply this framework. When I am asked a customer persona question, I'm going to apply this framework. And I think it's important to realize that these are starting points. As all of the panelists before me have spoken wonderfully about the fact that product management requires a lot of synthesis of many different skills. You are sort of, sitting at the center of strategy, financial modeling, sort of data analysis to see what customer behavior is telling you, competitive landscape understanding, trends in the industry, what is possible from a technology perspective, and by when, are you suggesting something that's amazing but will take a whole new re-architecture of your systems? All of us who've been with tech companies realize that you may have amazing ideas, but to implement them in a manner that's feasible and viable is another skill, right? So coming back to your question, I think those are starting points. The thing that you don't want to do, and take that in the best possible spirit, is when you enter into a new role, realize that those have been starting points, and you don't want to sort of, make the organization conform to that way of doing. There are different ways of doing it. The one thing I would say from a product management perspective, from a skill or a sort of something that's so fundamental and critical is, am I solving the right problem? Is this the right problem to solve? And to me, there's no, there's no one framework that tells you how to do it. It comes through judgment, it comes through experience, it comes through observing. So when you're young in your career, I would say take it all in, and make sure that you're going to an organization that inspires you, where the people inspire you, they're going to help you learn and grow. And I think the frameworks have their place and they're a starting point, but they will not be how you quote unquote do product management for the rest of your career.
Right. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Yeah, this is Ashi. Deepika, first of all, wonderful journey. It's highly impressive that you worked across continents and geographies. So I wanted to understand from your experience, how is product management from a global perspective, since you worked in US, you built products out there for customers in US. How is that different from the way product management is happening as of today in India? And we would like to learn from your experience, what kind of challenges did you face in adapting to a different set of entire customer segment out here in India? So what differences would you like to highlight, and any set of learnings that you have to share with us?
Thanks, Ashi, for that question. I would say the answer to that, or the way I look at that problem or that question, is less about US versus India. It's more about the stage of the organization that you're working on and what is the underlying philosophy. So let me talk about Amazon, because that's where I spent most of my career. Is the one thing I really learned from there is to have the courage of your conviction about, are you doing the right thing for the customer, and to focus on the big rocks. There wasn't a short-term approach about, are we going to make our numbers now? There was a very inherent fundamental belief that if you do the right thing, if you're solving for price, selection, convenience, quality, end customers will come. I was working on the marketplace side with Fulfillment by Amazon. It sat squarely in the middle of fulfillment, your supply chain, your retail and your marketplace, right? And my customers were all of the hundreds of thousands of sellers. So am I doing the right thing for them? Am I solving for trust? So I think the focus on, are you building the right thing? Are you solving their problems? Will they trust you? I really liked the focus on those very human questions, if that makes sense. And the metrics followed, so, and I have kept that very close to my heart throughout my career, that if you fundamentally do the right thing for the customer, and when I say customer, you have to balance the needs of your platform as well. We were not in the business of, not being profitable. So are you being fair to Amazon, the platform, the sellers who are selling on Amazon, the customers who are going to buy from Amazon? How do you bring that win-win-win situation? I compare and contrast that sometimes with organizations that are, and they have their own real pressures as well. So I'm not saying they are in the wrong, but they have to look at their next fundraise. They have to look at, demonstrating growth to their investors. And sometimes you end up making, I think, short-term solutions that might not be setting you up for long-term success. So I think having that courage of your conviction to turn around and talk to the investor community when you're fundraising and say, look, we are going to lose some money right now, but we are fundamentally doing the right thing. This is what distinguishes us from others in the space, perhaps. Because if others are already doing the right thing, then you better be doing it. I think having that point of view, standing behind it, and eventually it does pay off, is what I've seen. And then, obviously you have to be innovating. You can't be blind to what's happening in the world while doing that.
Sure, thank you. Because I have myself been in this situation. I have worked across fintechs in India where you are right there in the hustle culture, right?
Yeah.
You want to ship out that product as soon as possible. And the way you create your roadmap is completely different to what I'm doing today. I'm a VP of products at an MNC bank, and they have an entirely different way of working. So adapting to that kind of product management process, it's kind of it takes a little bit of learning.
Yes.
And I think your perspective is quite helpful, and it's like we just have to evolve and adapt to the market that we
do. And I will say it's a journey, depending on the culture that you're in. Sometimes you have to take small steps to carry people along with you. Really, you have to carry people along with you as a product leader. There is no way out. And if you find yourself in a situation where the thinking of people is very different from yours, I think that's a quality, or that's a skill that you learn over time, is how much of change can you introduce at one time, because you can't do it alone. You need that allyship in the organization.
Deepika, I'll take one question from the community here. I think the audience answered that majority of them are current product professionals, right? So relevant to that, what takes to be in the leadership role in the product space? And according to you, what are the competencies that one should focus on building?
Sure. So let me take competencies first, because I think that's more straightforward, right? So I think to get into a leadership role, definitely having a strategic mindset is very important, because you are going to shape the course of your product. You're going to define which customer segments you necessarily want to go after if you're introducing a new business. So recently I launched electric two-wheelers on Flipkart as a, it's a sort of demand hypothesis that I'm, wanting to prove out, and we've done really well. And so, we'll be building out this business on Flipkart. So to be able to convince your management to take a bet on this emerging industry where there are a lot of tailwinds in India. We want to reduce our dependence on importing crude, right? We are giving a lot of subsidies for electric vehicles, etc., right? So, but strategically, is there runway? What is the size of the market going to be? Is there enough opportunity? How will you convince customers who are used to touching and feeling a vehicle that you should end up trusting Flipkart to be able to make such a big purchase? All of these things are not small decisions. These are, large investments that an organization is making. So both having the communication skills, which Ram talked about, and then being able to solidly back it up with data, a strategic understanding of your landscape, I think, is really important. From a competency perspective, I think understanding the financial model of your product I have found is very useful for a product manager. Oftentimes when the businesses come to you with product ideas, you should be able to challenge them to say when they, and in a nice way, right? Because we all want to win together in the organization. You know, there's this amazing 1,000 crore opportunity that they are bringing you. Okay, how is it 1,000 crores? How many customers are you going to need? What is your target segment? Is the market saturated? Why are we going to be better than the competition? What makes you think, you know? So challenging that in a nice way so that you understand, you're not just taking their word for it. You are deeply convinced, because once you're deeply convinced as a product manager, you will work your magic to make that happen, right? Otherwise, the propensity is that, hey, he made me do it, the product didn't work well, and so I think there's disappointment and all kinds of unproductive things happen after that. So financial modeling, I think, is really important. I think having a good sense for what good user design is, I think, is also really important for product managers. There are great books and courses for you know, learning UX for product managers or non-UX professionals. I think you know, having that skill set is also important. And for all that I said about being non-technical, I have taken the time to skill myself and study systems design on the side to understand the building blocks of product technology, you know, everything from how the internet works, communication protocols, database sharding, you know, different UX technologies, native apps versus hybrid, all of that, right? All of that jing bang. I've done my Friday afternoons and weekends and more, because I did not want to feel like the imposter in the room early in my career when I was with tech architects and we were discussing, you know, some fundamental decisions that we'd have to take about how to architect products for the future, because I've done a lot of 0 to 100, 100 to 1,000 kind of product management. So I have not worked very much on products I've inherited and, you know, made changes to. So I've had to be part of these decisions. And I would say that is a very important skill set as well. But I would say one thing for women especially, and this goes out to women in the room, is, and maybe this is about the leadership part of your question, learn to speak up. I think many times women hold themselves back. We have voices in our head that say, this is enough, who am I to say this, I think I have spoken too much. There is a difference. Know yourself, build awareness. You know, taking up all the airspace is not the message I'm giving you. But if you have conviction about something, please do speak up and you know, be fearless, grab those chances.
Thank you.
Preeta, an enterprise product coach in Target Corporation. So here is my question. I would like to understand your thoughts on what are those 3 strategic and pragmatic ways to cultivate a product mindset in an organization. For a team, it is quite simple. If we will have to inculcate that, make them sit through some workshops and also handhold them and then see. But then if it has to be scaled to an organization level, the culture of product mindset, then what are those top 3 strategic and pragmatic ways in your opinion?
Thanks for the question, Preeta. It's a great question. So the first thing I would start with is, are you solving, like, what is the problem that we are trying to solve? Because everything can be a product. Really, everything can be a product, right? Because there's an intended target audience. This conference can be a product, right? How are you going to market this product? Who are you appealing to? If you're appealing to women who are coming from a non-product tech background, there's a different kind of talk that you will do. If there are seasoned professionals, if they're entry-level professionals, if they're, you know, senior leadership. So, like, who's your audience, right? That tells you who you are building your product for. What is success for your product? Okay, so if success for the conference is that people network and, you know, get to know each other, this is all hypothetical, by the way. I'm just using this as an example to illustrate that everything can be a product. So you're working backwards, right? So, okay, then are you creating networking spaces because you want every woman to be connected to 10 other women who they don't know, okay? So then how are you going to measure the success, right? So then are you going to collect that information to validate your understanding? So what are your success metrics going to be? I call those your output metrics. Then, so what have we talked about? defining your problem correctly. What is it that you're trying to do? Second is who you're doing it for. That will tell you what the product needs to do, right? And then what is success? How is that success going to be measured? And then what's really important is what are the input metrics that are going to drive success. So for example, if you, end up inviting women but seating or not having any breaks, right, where people can't network, right? So the number of breaks that you will have in that conference for people to actually get to spend time with each other, right? So are you facilitating that output metric to happen? If that makes sense. So, if you want, for example, people on, if wants folks in Swiggy to order at least, Swiggy customers to order at least once a week from Swiggy, right? Are you giving enough choice in every neighborhood? That's an input. It's a simple example to say that your output metrics should actually have well-thought inputs going into it. I think that's another product mindset. So these are generalized ways of thinking that you can apply to anything, because I truly believe that everything is a product.
We'll take one last question, maybe from this side, and then we'll wrap up. Together, that's great.
I'm Charulata Jain from Bosch.
And I'm Smriti from Bosch.
So our questions are very simple. Everybody knows your profile has been very diverse. So in this journey, what has been learning and unlearning for you? Changing organizations, understanding the culture. So some key hints on that aspect. That's the first question.
And the second is, we all know there is women's salary disparity. How did you fight that? And if you've come across it, and how did you fight that?
So they are not the same question, by the way, but I love how you...
And that was very smart to combine two different questions, but good.
So clearly there's learning there, which is don't always take no for an answer. I think the learning and unlearning for me really has been a journey of awareness of myself. There have been many reasons for me to believe that I couldn't be where I am. Whether it was not being from an Ivy League like a lot of people at Amazon were, or, not being an engineer, or being an Indian woman at a time when there weren't that many, role models or other representatives in Amazon, right? So I think that belief in myself, I think, has been that learning that I've continued to build on, because there are voices and stories that you can make up about, okay, this has been only luck, or, oh, this is things that I have learned to recognize that voice and, understand, okay, what are you afraid of? Yes, you've had a great run, you might fall flat on your face this time, but so what? Nobody's really watching, you got to learn from it and move on. So I think that has been a very important thread, and I would urge you all to, listen to that voice in your head that's either building you up or tearing you down, or, flip-flopping from one to the other side. I think the unlearning is an equally important part. I think the unlearning has been realizing that you don't have to fit in a box. There have been times in my career where I have, for example, when the Amazon India leadership opportunity was offered to me, I learned a lot from that experience, from having said no and realizing that the person who ended up taking it, really I could have done that role as well, right? And so I had to unlearn not to feel completely secure and failure-proof before I say yes to an opportunity, and it has helped me take chances too. So that's one thing. And quickly about the salary disparity, have I run into it as a woman? I think I'm pretty well paid, so I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, very honestly. I think I'm paid well for what I do. I think I lead with what I bring to the table, and I'm not afraid to negotiate on my behalf. So I don't feel that anybody is doing me a favor by offering me that job or that opportunity, because I also bring things to the table, right? It has to be a mutual give and take. So I would say negotiate. There are times though when you might actually want something that that organization has to teach you, and you might not be in the opportunity to call the shots also. Maybe you make a conscious decision that for some time there I'm going to do this unpaid internship, or I want to get something out of there, and not be, you know, stubborn about something, because you're getting something from that opportunity, but you don't sell yourself short. You have to be very, very aware and conscious about the call that you're making if you take such a call.
I know it has been such an amazing session, but we are slightly out of time. So I will have to, kind of take a pause for this AMA, but Deepika is here with us for at least some more time, and you guys can interact with her during the lunch, and ask if your questions are left unanswered.
Yeah, and you know what, if you want to send those over to NASSCOM,
yes,
I will see if I can find a way to connect and carry the conversation.
What we'll do is, I'll request all the volunteers to hand over the post-its. If there are any questions, just write it to us and hand it over to either me or Smita here, and we'll make sure that your questions are answered by Deepika.
And we have a speed networking session at the end as well, for varied variety of topics. So many leaders going to sit at the table and help you answer the questions as well. So you can utilize that opportunity too.
But thank you so much, Deepika. Thank you. I think it was a great, great session. Thank you, Lakshmi.